Hey everybody, this is Lieutenant Governor Micah Beckwith, and you can ask me anything. In this episode, I asked you to send me in your questions about absolutely anything, and you did not disappoint. Question number 1. Melissa Craig David asks, will you reply to the questions being asked? Well, yes, I will, Melissa. Thanks for your question. Off to a great start. Our next question comes from Rochelle Terrace Hooks. Rochelle asks, did you watch the Super Bowl halftime show? Actually, I watched a Super Bowl halftime show, but not the Bad Bunny show. I flipped it over to the TPUSA All-American halftime show with Kid Rock and Lee Brice, and it was an amazing show. The performances were off the hook, and it was pro-American. It was family-friendly, and I thought it just was an all-around edifying experience. And so love that we got to see a great game, and also love that we got to see a really good, solid pro-American halftime show. Thank you, TPUSA, for what you did. That was a huge, huge blessing for America. Joanne Early from Sellersburg asks, what is your stance on the SAVE Act? Great question, Joanne. I think it's an amazing bill. Washington needs to pass this. This requires proof of citizenship and a photo ID in order to vote in our elections. Listen, that is a very basic, fundamental ask when you go to vote. We require photo ID for many things in this nation. When we go vote, that's one of the most sacred responsibilities that any American has, and we should be able to provide a photo ID. And you should not be voting in our elections if you're not a citizen of this nation. This is not an uncommon or out of the ordinary ask. Every nation on the face of the earth will do these types of regulations when it comes to voting. We should do the same. This is not unkind. It's not overburdensome. This is the right thing to do, and America needs to pass the SAVE Act. Our next question comes from Camilla Randall. She writes, I was heartbroken by the murder of Haley Busby. Are there any updates on the proposed Haley's Law, and what can we do now to protect our children? Well, Camilla, that's a great question. I'm going to tell you right now, I was heartbroken to learn about what happened to Haley Busby. And as a father of 2 children myself, I can only imagine the heartbreak and the terror that any parent goes through when this happens to their family. And I pray that it never happens to another family until the Lord returns. And at the end of the day, though, we live in an evil world. And so what we're going to do, and my commitment to you, is to not back down on this fight. We will make our laws tougher. We will make those consequences for people who do evil things like this very, very severe, so that others who think about doing it will not want to do it because government brings the hammer of justice down on them. And secondly, we need to put in boundaries and protections on our children and our youth. We've got a couple great bills that are moving through the House right now that are going to strengthen things like the Amber Alert system. It's going to give discretion to law enforcement officers that think that this may not be a runaway. Right now, they don't have a ton of discretion to make that call, putting out the Amber Alert. And so this will help them say, no, we think there's something more going on here. And we also are going to see things in the future, whether it's this session or next session, we're going to see things that put parameters on social media for children and for teenagers so that they don't walk into these traps set up by predators. And so, again, it's twofold. We got to bring the hammer of justice down as the government, and we got to be able to put in boundaries to make sure that our children and families are protected as well. My commitment to you is that we will not stop fighting until we get this right. Our next question comes from Bob Euler. Bob writes, why don't we legalize and tax cannabis in Indiana instead of sending those dollars to the surrounding states? Well, Bob, I appreciate the question. This is something I get asked about a lot on the campaign trail or when I'm traveling the state just talking to Hoosiers. Listen, I'm not a pro-legalized marijuana guy, and here's why. We live in a country of 50 sovereign states. We've seen some states that have legalized marijuana and some that haven't. This is a beautiful thing about our republic. We get to see other states experiment in democracy before we have to make our own decisions. I grew up in a state called Michigan, just up north. I have a brother-in-law who works for the Indiana State Police. As Michigan has legalized marijuana, I've seen the destruction of their society go downhill very quickly. It's not been helpful. And by the way, they made the same argument. They said, we're losing tax dollars. We could have a lot of new schools if we just tax marijuana and legalize it and tax it. Well, here's the deal, what happened in Michigan. They didn't build a single school with new tax dollars. Actually, for every tax dollar they bring in, they're spending $3 to $4 more cleaning up the mess that the legalization of marijuana has made, whether the gateway drug mentality, whether it's homelessness, whether it creates more of a crisis in drug dealing and opening up a plethora of other issues for our children as well. These are not good things. And so we have to look at the protection of the societal decency and the standards of any society. And when I look at the legalization of marijuana, it has not helped in these states like Michigan or Colorado or California. I think there's a place we could have a conversation on legalizing the medical use of marijuana. Marijuana is a natural substance. God gave it to us. Doctors and patients potentially could have a real reason to use things like cannabis for Parkinson's or other really important issues and struggles that people are going through. So that's a different subject. But just to say recreational marijuana, legalize it and tax it, it's not going to help us. It's going to hurt us. And by the way, whenever somebody says, if we just do this, we'll get the tax dollars, don't believe it. It never works that way. Remember when they told us, if we just raise the gas tax, it'll fix all of our roads. Well, if you've driven in Indiana roads, not terrible, but not great. We got a lot of failing roads. It doesn't work. Hey, if we just build casinos, we'll be able to fund our schools. Well, if you talk to teachers, our schools are underfunded. It never goes the way of the positive outcomes when people say, just do this and we'll tax it more. I don't buy that anymore, and I think that's a really dangerous trap to fall into. Our next question comes from @the0601 board. This person or thing or AI machine asks, what do you think of what WIBC did to Rob Kendall? Well, for those of you who don't know, Rob Kendall is a former host on WIBC, which is a radio program in central Indiana. And he was somebody that had a fairly big platform and a voice in the world of local and state and national politics. Listen, Rob and I have a history together. He was a friend. I was his pastor. I married him and his wife. I dedicated his child at our church. I really do love Rob. I still do love Rob. I don't consider him an enemy. I think certainly Rob has been very, very critical, and I believe unfairly so, to me in my office and to this administration. But I don't. My identity is not my politics, and I don't relish the fact of somebody like Rob losing his platform or being let go by an organization like WIBC. Am I thankful he's not going to be on the platform to be able to unfairly criticize me in our office? I'm thankful. I'm glad that platform's not there anymore. But it doesn't bring joy to my heart that I have a guy that I do care about that is going through now a season of uncertainty. So ultimately, I haven't talked to Rob in a long time, but I do pray for him. I pray for his family, and maybe someday there could be some reconciliation. And he's super talented, and the guy's got just so much potential to offer to our state, to our community, to our nation, and really, honestly, to the kingdom of God. And I hope the Lord leads him on that journey. Lindsay Megan in Jasper writes, why are so many Indiana high schools allowed to encourage their students to walk out of class to protest ICE? Lindsay, that's a great question. I've asked the exact same thing. Why are our public schools funded by public tax dollars allowing students to do this and waste government time, government money, government resources on what should be happening, which is educating our students? Just so you know, yesterday at the State House, there was an ICE protest, and most of the kids were 14, 15, 16 years old. It was 1 o'clock on a Wednesday, and they were protesting. Why aren't they in school? Where's the parental oversight? Where is the schools and the administrations? Where's their oversight? Many people are saying, well, kids have a right to freedom of speech to some extent, but when they go into the public school, the public schools have a duty to educate, and walking out, spending hours out of the classroom. It's not just 20 minutes here. It's coming down to places like the State House. It's walking to government buildings. We've seen schools waste countless dollars, time, and energy that could have been going to education. They're now not, because these teenagers want to protest, and they don't half the time they don't even know what they're protesting. And so that's an issue that I have. I do think this is a great reminder to parents all across the state of Indiana that we have a great voucher program. And if parents would like to send their kids to other schools that don't allow this type of nonsense to go on, you can do it. Your tax dollars will follow you. You can go to a private school, a charter school, or a Christian school, and you can actually get education where education will be done right. Next question comes from Ashley Bunton. Ashley writes, is there a plan for Gary, Indiana? Have you ever been inside one of those concrete houses there? Now, just so you know, I've been to Gary multiple times since I've been lieutenant governor, and actually, I love Gary. I love Lake County. There's so much untapped potential that the sky is the limit. I go up there, and yes, there's homelessness and there's dilapidated blight in housing all over Lake County and specifically in Gary. However, the mayor of Gary, Eddie Melton, I think has a good vision. Councilman Darren Washington is a good friend of mine. He's got a good vision. Senator Mark Spencer, I think he also has a good vision for that region. And these guys are all Democrats. And I actually have been very impressed with their heart for Gary and what they're actually going to do in the future with Gary. Now, again, it's not there yet, but what I'm asking Indiana is to see the potential of a place like Gary. It really could be the Miami of the North. I know you think that's funny. We have the cruise ship industry that is looking at potentially building and launching cruise ships from the southernmost tip of Lake Michigan, which would be right there at the Gary shoreline. And so that right there could be an incredible drive. We've got an airport that we haven't tapped its potential yet, that could drive multiple dollars, millions and millions of dollars of tax dollars into Gary Airport, because it's easier to get to Chicago when you land at Gary than it is from O'Hare or Midway even. And so this is don't forget about the Gary Bears. Okay. Now, I may have offended maybe people in Maryville or other places in Lake County, but wherever the Bears go, and Lord willing, it'll be Northwest Indiana. I mean, this region is primed for economic explosion. Our next question comes from Christina Greger. Christina writes, why don't you have live town hall meetings? Well, Christina, I'm glad you asked. We've been doing town halls last year, and we're getting ready to launch our new town hall tour called 92 and You. There's 92 counties in Indiana. We're going to hit them all, and we want to see you and all your friends at the town halls. Now, doing the Ask Micah Anything is a great way to get questions answered quickly and get them out to the masses, but it's also another really fun and exciting time to come to a live town hall, because you can come up to the microphone, you can ask questions, you get to meet me in person. You may agree with me, you may disagree with me, but we can dialogue back and forth. And I'll tell you this, people may not always agree with me, but I know what I know and I know why I know it. And I want people to ask really challenging, tough, difficult questions, because if I can't answer those, then I don't deserve to represent you. And if I don't have an answer, then maybe I've never thought about it. Maybe it's a perspective that I didn't have, and I don't know everything, but I want to learn. I constantly every day get up, say, all right, Lord, teach me something new about the world. Be sure to check out our 92 and You Town Hall Tour coming to a town near you. For more times and places, go to our social media and our website as we post those later this summer. Melissa writes, as the head of agriculture in our state, what official measures have you taken to ensure we are protected from the geoengineering taking place in our federal airspace? This is a big concern of mine. I get asked by constituents as well all the time, hey, what's going on with cloud seeding and weather modification and this geoengineering that's happening? Well, I have talked to the governor about it. He's reaching out to the White House to ask about where these things are coming from, because we got to know what's really at play here. If this is happening, first of all, how and who are behind these things. And so we're working on getting those details. We also want to make sure that we follow the example of states like Florida. I know Florida has put in a anti-geoengineering bill, and they've passed that. Other states are taking measures similarly too. And I think Indiana would be safe to say, let's just follow the lead of states like Florida when it comes to this issue. I also want to put out there too, Senator Alexander from Delaware County had a bill last year going through, he filed it in the Senate, never got a hearing. And it would have outlawed geoengineering and cloud seeding and weather modification above our Indiana skies. But we don't see anything like that ever moving. I think the reason is, if I can be honest with you, a lot of this is kind of shrouded in mystery, and it kind of gets that label of conspiracy theorist when we bring this up. That's okay. We know that, we were labeled conspiracy theorists during COVID, and now come to find out, many of us were right, and everything that was going on is exactly what we were saying was happening. This is just one of those issues. But sometimes our legislators are not awake yet, and so we need to wake them up. And we do have some good ones that are saying, hey, there's something here, we should look into it. Again, Senator Scott Alexander, good senator from Delaware County. He was carrying a bill. We should encourage him to continue to carry that bill every session and keep pushing this bill so it gets more and more traction. Our next question comes from Carson Pat. Carson Pat asks, why do you wear such small pants? I don't know, Carson Pat. Why do you have two first names? Our next question comes from Bonnie Thompson. Bonnie writes, are Republicans going to protect all of Indiana from wealthy corporations taking advantage of our communities with data centers and massive solar farms? Bonnie, great question. Something I hear often about when I'm traveling the state. Hoosiers are rightly concerned that we are getting out over our skis with some of these technological advances that have to do with data centers or maybe solar farms or wind turbines. Let me say where I stand on this, and I think there's two different issues here. When it comes to wind and solar, I'm not a big fan of wind and solar because I think the technology was so heavily subsidized by the government that industry really was never able to stand on its own 2 feet. I think that technology is already outdated. I'm not seeing a load that it's carrying when it comes from energy. It's really not adding much to our grid in a way that's very helpful. I mean, a little bit here and there, great, that's fine. I get it, but at what cost? And when you see solar projects taking up massive amounts of acreage on our farms, it is concerning. And I want to set that over there. That's where I don't like those types of issues. When it comes to data centers, I think data centers are different. Data centers don't take up as much acreage. Data centers are a national security issue. Right now, all of the national security experts in Washington are saying it's between us and China, and whoever wins this data center race and the future for information will be the next world superpower. I do not want China to be the next world superpower. That would be a very dangerous place for all of us. And you think Indiana farms are in danger with data centers, wait until China takes over the world. We really would be up a creek at that point. So there is that. I don't think we should be getting out over our skis, though. And that's where, as far as the energy goes, the water goes, we've got to make sure that we have the resources rightly ready to go in order to build these data centers. So while I think data centers are different than wind and solar, I also think we can get over our skis, and we've seen this in areas like the LEAP project in the Lebanon area. The government got out over its skis before it knew what it was doing. And now we're trying to salvage this and roll it back and figure out resourcing after the fact. We shouldn't do it that way. And I will tell you this, the governor and myself, we've talked on these issues. We're very clear. If a local community wants it, then they should be allowed to do it. If a local community doesn't want it, then we're not going to push it from the state level. We shouldn't be pushing it from the state level. We don't like it when Washington comes into Indiana and tells us what to do. We shouldn't have Indianapolis go into some of our small communities and tell them what to do. Next question comes from Michelle Hennessy. Michelle asks, where in the Bible does it say, love thy neighbor, except if they don't have your beliefs? Well, the Bible's very clear that we are to love what is good and hate what is evil. That's what the Bible says God does. And there are many things that God lays out that he says that he hates. He hates the shedding of innocent blood. He hates a lying tongue. He hates divisive spirits, things like that are not good things. So if you believe that the shedding of innocent blood is a good thing, I'm going to disagree with you on that. I'm going to say that's a bad thing. That's not a good thing. It doesn't mean I hate you. It doesn't mean that I don't love you. It means that I love you enough to tell you the truth. So when I love my neighbor, one of the ways I love my neighbor is by speaking the truth to my neighbor. Same thing with parents. If you have children, you understand how this works. Sometimes your kids don't like what you tell them. And if you are a parent, you get this. Sometimes telling a child the hard truth makes for a rough evening at home. There may be a lot of I hate yous and you don't understand me and I don't love you and all of those things. If you're a parent, you get it. I'm walking through this right now because I've got a stubborn son and I love him to death, but I tell him the hard truths and sometimes he doesn't like it. But I do it because I love him. If I didn't love him, I wouldn't tell him the truth. If I didn't love him, I would just keep the peace and avoid all conflict and not get involved in any of these hard truths. But when you love somebody, you're willing to have the hard truth conversations. That's what it means to be a follower of Jesus. John chapter 6, the Bible says that Jesus divided people. It's the multitude went away offended at what he said because he told them the truth. Luke 12:51, Jesus says to his disciples, he says, do you think I've come to bring peace? No, I've come to bring a sword of division. He says, I'm going to divide the truth from the lies. People are going to be separated. Moms and dads are going to turn on each other. Fathers and sons, mothers and daughters will turn on each other because of the truth. So to think that you're not loving somebody is not accurate. When you speak truth, you're actually doing the opposite. You're loving them even though it might cause necessary conflict. And conflict can be good. It can lead to great growth if it's done right and if it's done in love. But you may see it as unloving. I see it the opposite. I see it as very loving. If I didn't care about you, and if I didn't care about our state, if I didn't care about our nation, why in the world would I take the arrows? Why in the world would I stand up and say the truth, say what I really truly believe, when I know all hell's going to be unleashed and people are going to hate me because of it? I'm not doing it because I enjoy being hated. I'm doing it because I actually love you, and I love the people I'm speaking to, even though they may not understand it, even though they may not get it. I recognize that when they know the truth will set them free. It's exactly what John 8:32 says, and that's why I speak truth, and that's how I love my community, and you should too. Our next question comes from Washington Catholic Schools. They write, will you come visit our school? Our students would love to meet you. Well, thank you, Washington Catholic Schools. I would absolutely love to come visit your schools. We try to reach out to schools, and oftentimes we get shut down by administrations or teachers who don't want someone like me coming into their schools. But I'm glad you're reaching out, and yes, we will have our staff get in touch with you. If you're a school and you're watching this and you're an administrator or a teacher and you'd like for me to come and talk about civics, American history, constitutional theory, I would be more than happy to do that. Or if you just want to, ask me any questions that you have on your mind, I'm happy to answer questions to your students as well. We can talk about all things, life, politics, faith, anything you want, and I'm happy to do it because I believe dialogue creates a really strong future for our children and children's children. So yes, thank you so much for that invitation, and I look forward to seeing y'all. And our final question today comes from Amy Pitzer. Amy asks, how does America heal our current division? Is this something that is important to you? Amy, that's a great question. People have asked me this many times, and they'll say things like, you're causing more division, or you're making it tough for people to be united. And I've thought about that. I've thought long and hard about that. My question that I respond with oftentimes is, well, what are we uniting around? That has to be the question. When you talk about division, you also need to ask the question, what are we uniting around? I look back through world history, and there are many wicked, evil nations that were united, but they were united around really bad things. Take Nazi Germany in 1939. They were united as a nation, but they were united around a really, really bad worldview, a bad leader, an evil leader, and many wicked things. And yet they were united. So if you're looking for unity, for the sake of unity, I would say I don't want just to unify around anything. I want to unify around what is good, what is true, what is virtuous, what is righteous. The Bible says righteousness exalts a nation, but sin is a reproach to any people. I want to unite around righteousness because I know it's going to exalt America. It's going to bless America. It's going to protect us and keep us free and keep our children prosperous. That's what I want. So if you're talking about unity, I want to unify around those things. Then the question becomes, well, what are those things? Who gets to decide what those things are? Great question. That's where we have to ask. Who essentially is our lawgiver? Who gets to decide what is right and what is wrong, what is good, what is evil? Every nation has a God. That God sets the standard for what is good and what is right. And so in America, we have to ask the question, who's our God? Is it the God of our forefathers? The God of the Christian ethic that they look to, our creator who gave us certain inalienable rights, and among them are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness? Or is our God something else or someone else? Is our God a politician? Is our God ourselves? Somewhere in there, we have to answer the question, who is our God? And ultimately, I don't want to unify around just any God. I want to unify around God, Yahweh, around who our forefathers said we should be unified around. And so ultimately, I want unity. But if we're talking about dividing, I also recognize there is a time and a place for good division. When a cancer patient walks into an oncologist, and the oncologist looks at the charts and the tests, comes into the waiting room and says, I'm sorry, you have cancer. One of the worst things any person can hear. That oncologist doesn't say, but we're going to unify around the cancer. We're going to embrace the cancer. We're going to identify with the cancer, and we're just going to act like it's okay. We're going to change your mindset. We would say that's a terrible doctor. We would say that's somebody that should not have a medical license. What a good doctor will say is, hey, I'm sorry, you have cancer, but we're going to divide the healthy part of your body from the sick part of your body. We're going to go after the things that shouldn't be in your body. We're going to kill it or we're going to cut it out, and there's going to be good division, which then will bring health. That's what America needs right now. We need people that say, hey, there's good things in our nation. We should unify around those. But there's bad things in our nation, And we should divide ourselves from those. Let's divide rightly. And if we divide rightly, we will be healthy, we will be whole, and we will be very, very secure for many generations to come. Thanks to everyone who sent in their questions for this episode, and make sure to check back next week as I answer the next batch in part 2 of Ask Micah Anything.